So, Stevie, Nicol, we're looking for the best of the rest because we're assuming, and having heard you on ESPN FC talking about Man City and Liverpool, we're assuming that those two are going to be the top two in whichever order, and there's going to be a decent gap to the rest. Now, who's going to be best of the rest? Let's start with Chelsea, shall we? What do you expect for them under new ownership, potentially buying some new players? Do you like right now as a starting players?
Chelsea are in such a strange position for me, particularly with the new owners. With the previous owners, you knew that whenever they needed to reload, the money was there, the money was made available, and they went and did it. They just got it done, and you knew that it was happening. Because of the change of ownership, we don't really know the dynamics, certainly upstairs at Chelsea. We know who Chelsea have still. We know the players that they do have, but as you said, they 100% need to go and start signing some players. And they certainly need to maybe get rid of some. And I'm thinking more about Lukaku and how do they do that? And if they don't get rid of Lukaku, does that mean they don't have finances to bring people in? So there are just so many questions about Chelsea right now that it's very difficult to pin that team down and say what they're going to do and how they're going to be. Had they kept the same squad, then I think you're saying to yourself, well, definitely top four. But right now, I have no idea. And I don't think anybody at Chelsea right now has any idea. They haven't signed anybody, as I said. They haven't got the players they got rid of. They didn't have a choice. And certainly the players that have gone, I'm thinking of Rudiger here, they wouldn't want him to leave. Silva's getting on. I think Chelsea are just in a real state of change. And right now, I don't know whether the change is for the better or for the worse.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to predict. Could it be an issue for Chelsea that other teams know that they have a new injection of capital and might be harder to deal with when it comes to players that Chelsea are interested in and just bump the price up, knowing that Todd Bowley's got to come in and make an impact, sign some big name players. So why don't other teams just put the price up to put pressure on them?
I don't even think it's that, to be honest with you. Yes, everybody will try and bump the price up, but it's tough to even figure out who Chelsea are going to go and sign because the players that seemingly are available seem to be on their way. I'm thinking of people like Bastoni that looks like he's going to be going to Spurs. You've got Koundé that they're talking about. I think the question you put there, I think it's just too early to try and answer that question. I don't think it's got anything to do with teams are trying to be cute because they've got new owners. I just don't think Chelsea have got their house in order as far as targets and as far as spending amounts. There are just so many things I don't think that are settled at Chelsea that question you put. I don't think that right now would be a problem.
With all the question marks you've mentioned about Chelsea, who do you think right now is the favourite to finish third, assuming that Manchester City and Liverpool take the top two spots? Could it be Spurs, who were probably the team that ended the season the best out of the chasers?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that Spurs, the way they finished the season last year, and the moves they're making in the transfer market, we're talking about the Bastonis. You're talking about a guy like Jed Spence. They're looking at from Forest. They've got targets, and they've made it clear that they want to take a step up. Of all the sides outside the top two, they're the one side that have sort of said to everybody around, right, we want to do that, we need better players. And so they've gone out and they've signed players and they're still trying to sign more players. It's very un-Spurs-like. Daniel Levy's one of those guys that has the reputation for waiting to the last second to try and be cute and clever and get a deal. It seems like Conte's sort of got him in order and said, right, let's not try and be clever here. Let's do what we need to do in order to take a step up. So for me, it's a really easy answer. Spurs, no question, look to be the team that are trying the hardest to get close to Man City and Liverpool.
Yeah, that's the next part of the question. If they're your third best team in the country right now, as we speak, with the players that have been added, how close are they to trying splitting Manchester City and Liverpool?
Quite some distance, shall I say. Look, the fact that they're getting better and they look as though they're going to be better doesn't mean that they're anywhere close to City and Liverpool. You know, the bad news for everybody else, including Spurs, is that Liverpool was so far ahead of them and City was so far ahead of them as well that they've gone and added. City's added Haaland. What a sign of that is. Are you kidding? So that means they're going to be better. Liverpool have signed the centre forward in Nunez. That's going to make them better. So listen, whoever high the step up was previously, try and take another step, because those two sides, in my opinion, have made themselves better than they were. So yeah, Spurs look like the side that could compete, but there's still quite a bit away.
Okay, so as far as best of the rest is concerned, we've spoken about Chelsea, we've spoken about Spurs, and for Chelsea, you said at this stage we have no idea what's going to happen next season. Could the same be applied to Manchester United under new ownership? As far as the head coach is concerned, Eric Ten Hag will come in linked with a whole number of players, but there's a lot more questions right now than answers for Manchester United, isn't there?
Yeah, I don't think anybody can turn around and say, right, this is new manager. So just a lot of questions and no answers. And you know, the one thing again that is going to hurt all these other teams, they need 3 and 4 players. They don't just need one player. You know, City and Liverpool, as I said, have added one piece because that's all they needed. All these other sides are needing 3 and 4. Now, if I'm not mistaken, we're looking at Chelsea and Spurs and Arsenal and Man United as probably the 4 that we would expect to try and get better. So if they all need 3 or 4 players, where are these players coming from? Are these players available? Yeah, there's plenty of players available, but are they good enough to take any of those sides nearer to City and Liverpool? So that again is another problem for everybody around, and no more so than Man United, because they, in my opinion, need more players. They need 5 or 6, not 3 or 4. So yeah, Manchester United, a little bit in the wilderness right now as far as trying to predict what's going to happen there. I guess the one thing we could probably confidently say is they won't be as bad this year as they were last year. So that's kind of where they're starting from.
So given the position that they go into in the new season with the new coach, would a top 4 spot and a Champions League position at the end of that be a successful season for Manchester United, regardless of what they do in the cup competitions? Arsenal, where do we start with them? Because they had the final Champions League spot in their grasp. They kind of threw it away, beaten to it by Spurs, lost Lacazette, Aubameyang's gone. Well, they need a striker.
Yeah, they need a striker. They need a striker, but they need to strengthen all round. You know, if everybody's fit, the starting 11 they had for a period in the second part of the season was good. Played some great football. They were consistent for a good long spell. And I mention the word consistent because they've got a lot of younger players, and it takes younger players time to get that consistency, particularly at the high end of the Premier League. And so they need to. They've got a good starting 11 if they can get a centre forward, but then they need to fill out the squad with players who are going to be as good as the starting 11 in order, A, for competition's sake, and B, to get better. So I think Arsenal, again, are in a position where they need to sign at least 3 or 4 players of real quality for those 2 reasons, to make them better and have competition pretty much in the starting 11, which I don't really think is there right now. You know, come the end of the season, they did tail off, yes. I think a lot of that was down to inexperience, but I also think it was down to the fact that they didn't have that strength and depth that they could make changes when it was needed.
Can they keep Bukayo Saka, Stevie?
Yeah, they won't let him go. Arsenal Arsenal, if they want to lose half the fan base, then they'll turn around and sell Bukayo Saka tomorrow. It's as simple as that. If they were to do that, my goodness, there'd be a revolt amongst the fans. So that's not happening, regardless of what would be offered for him. It's not happening.
Okay, let's wrap this up. We've spoken about the kind of big four behind the big two in the chase for Champions League spots. Is there a dark horse? Is it, apart from the six that we've mentioned, who do you think has got the best chance of competing with these teams that we've mentioned today for a spot in the top four?
Listen, I guess there's always one that pops up and does well. You know, West Ham recently have done it, as you said, less a few years ago. But again, I find it hard to come up with somebody who would compete with them. You know, I think particularly the financial situation, all the guys we've been talking about, way more financial clout than anybody else below them. I don't know. Maybe Wolves can consolidate and compete for longer periods at the top end of the table. But
what about Villa under Steven Gerrard?
It really is a guess.
Villa under Gerrard with a full pre-season behind him, his first full season as a manager in the Premier League. If he can get backing from the board in the transfer window over the summer, could Villa be one of those teams?
So I don't think to compete for the season. So no, I don't see Steven Gerrard's side Villa competing at the top end. I think we're looking at the normal suspects, to be honest with you. And I'll be surprised if anybody comes out of the blue.
So Stevie Nicol's pick to finish best of the rest is Tottenham Hotspur. Full coverage as we begin the build-up to the new Premier League season right here at ESPN.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.